Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Andy's Witchcraft by me, Sacred Moon. I hope you are all having a wonderful day so far. Today's episode, we are going to discuss the next Wheel of the Year holiday, and I know I am super early for it, but I kind of wanted to get these Wheel of the Year holidays episodes kind of like out of the way so I could prepare for new, more personal content on my personal craft. So today we're going to talk about Ostara. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you feel like it's too early for this episode, hopefully you can revisit when you're closer to the holiday. For those of you who do not know, Ostara is celebrated from March 19th to March 23rd in the Northern Hemisphere. This holiday celebrates the spring equinox. And remember that the word equinox means that night and day are equal in length. Ostara is a holiday that symbolizes fertility, rebirth, and renewal. It honors the spring's warmth, the light from the sun, and the awakening of the earth. This holiday marks the beginning of the agricultural cycle, where farmers would start planting seeds, and a big reason why Ostara was demonized by the church was due to its roots and focus on fertility. The church interpreted this as literal fertility, being promiscuous, and obviously that's against what they taught, and so they demonized it. They didn't realize that the main focus of Ostara is on metaphorical fertility, which is like manifesting, or fertility that's literal in the sense for gardening and for your crops, and so on and so forth. Interesting fact, on the old Germanic calendar, the equivalent month to April was called Ostarmonat, or Easter month. As a holiday, Easter predates Christianity, and it was originally the name for the spring equinox celebrations, because it kind of, that was when it was really celebrated, was in April. Western astrologers considered the equinox to be the astrological new year, which is a time of new beginnings. So basically, from what I gather, we have like 3 different New Years. We have the pagan New Year, which is Samhain, the secular New Year, which is on January 1st, and an astrological New Year, which is on Ostara. Now, let's talk about some mythologies and traditions surrounding Ostara. Now, I want to make a disclaimer that there is debate in the pagan community regarding the origins of Ostara, but that's due to the lack of primary sources about this holiday. A lot of them have been rewritten. There's no original documents or papers or journals or letters that really spoke about the true nature of the origins of Ostara. So we kind of go by word of mouth, and we go by what we can find online these days, which are mainly secondary sources. The first mythology I want to discuss is Eoster. And Eoster is one of the main theories on the origins of Ostara. It is believed that the holiday and the name of the holiday came from this goddess. Eoster is the Germanic goddess of dawn, and she is celebrated during the spring equinox. Now, the issue with accounts on her existence is that nobody is certain of her origins. This is the main reason why origins of Ostara are kind of unknown. The impetus of the Christian church to abolish all traces of pagan religions made it even more difficult for information to survive, even through secondhand or scholarly sources. Eoster is mentioned in the writings of an 8th century monk known as the Venerable Bede, who reported that pagan Anglo-Saxons in medieval Northumbria held festivals in her honor during the month of April. Now, other than this, we don't have much information about how she was honored by the pagans, why this particular goddess was honored at this particular time. By the 19th century, she became an important part of German culture, and she was added into German literature, paintings, and folklore. Now, Jacob Grimm, who is one of the 2 brothers Grimm, wrote in his 1835 treatise, Teutonic Mythology, and he wrote that Eostre seems therefore to have been the divinity of the radiant dawn, of upspringing light, a spectacle that brings joy and blessing, whose meaning could be easily adapted by the resurrection day of the Christian's God. Now, Eostre is generally associated with themes of fertility, renewal, and the changing of the seasons, and she is often depicted with symbols of spring like eggs and hares. The next mythology I want to discuss is the mythology of Demeter and Persephone. Now, this is the time of the year when Persephone returns to her mother Demeter after 6 long months in the underground. The spring season arrives as Demeter's grief is stamped out by the return of her daughter. Now, for reasons of why Persephone had to go back to the underworld and why, what happened, why she only comes back in certain months, you could refer to my Mabon episode where I go into detail on that mythology. And you will realize why Persephone has to stay in the underworld for half the year. The next mythology of Ostara is Freya. Now, Freya is the Norse goddess of love, fertility, war, and death. She is said to abandon the earth during the cold months, but she returns in the spring and restores nature's beauty. The next mythology is of Isis and Osiris. Now, in ancient Egypt, we find that people celebrate the god Osiris during this time of the year. Isis and Osiris ruled an ancient land in peace and bliss, but things took a turn for the worse when Set, Osiris's brother, murdered Osiris in a fit of jealousy. Set cut up Osiris's body and scattered it throughout the world. Isis, who was heartbroken, gathered back these pieces, and she was able to revive Osiris. Once he was alive, she assumed the form of a kite and flew around him, drew the seed from his body into her own, and became pregnant with a son, Horus, the sun god. Out of this dark time came the light. Even though Osiris now lived, he was incomplete and could no longer rule the land of the living. He withdrew into the afterlife, where he became Lord and Judge of the dead. In order to enter his kingdom, the deceased had to undertake a perilous journey to the Hall of Judgment, where their hearts are balanced against the feather of Ma'at, which was justice or balance. As Osiris had been a good and beneficent ruler during his lifetime, his presence in the underworld no doubt gave the people great comfort. Now, Osiris is viewed in Egyptian mythology as the one who died and rose from the dead to save many. Egyptians therefore believe that Osiris was of divine origin, that he suffered death, and that he rose again, and he became henceforth the king of the underworld and judge of the dead, and that because he had conquered death, the righteous also might conquer death. Now, does that sound familiar to you? Yes. Absolutely, it does. This is where we see a lot of mirroring between religions, between mythologies, and I absolutely adore it. I absolutely adore how many spiritualities and religions have this symbol of hope, have this symbol of adoration and admiration for a deity who gave so much sacrifice for them. It truly is heartwarming, honestly. Now, scholars have even suggested the possible connection between Osiris's resurrection story with those found in Christianity, with Jesus. But of course, none is to say that Jesus is Osiris and Osiris is Jesus. No, there are two distinct deities and should be treated as such. Ostara is a time to remember Osiris's sacrifice and remember that with every dark season comes a newer, brighter season. The last mythology, not really a mythology, but the last kind of deity or spiritual entity that I wanted to discuss for this episode is Archangel Raphael, because I just found this out and I think that it is pretty interesting stuff. Now, I just recently found out Archangel Raphael presides over the season of spring. He is said to orchestrate the work of the elementals, the devas, and the assorted nature spirits who help to vitalize and optimize the energetic and material structures of Earth's vegetation from seed to fruition. So if you want some help with gardening, Archangel Raphael, I guess, would be an amazing choice. I did not know this, and I think it's really, really cool. Raphael is the great angelic healer, and he imparted to humanity the wisdom of healing herbs and flowers. So that's it for the mythology aspects of this holiday. I now want to talk quickly about the Christian counterpart of Ostara. Now, this counterpart is called Easter. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to talk briefly about it, go into the basics, go into some history of why the name is so similar to the goddess Eoster. But other than that, everything is kind of like what the media puts it out to be. So, Easter commemorates the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ in Jerusalem. Jesus had been crucified on a Friday, which is called Good Friday, and he rose from the dead the following Sunday, called Easter Sunday. For Christianity, the resurrection of Jesus is a foundation of faith. And because the resurrection took place on a Sunday, the first Christians soon adopted Sunday as the day of the week when they gathered to pray together and worship God. Easter is linked to the Jewish festival of Passover, which was taking place when Jesus died. The timing of Passover depends on the cycles of the moon. So, the date of the Christian celebration of Easter changes each year, and the reason the date changes is because it is based on the lunar cycle. In 325 AD, the first major church council, the Council of the Nicaea, determined that Easter should fall on the Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox. Now, the reason this is so complex and kind of like a controversial issue is that when they refer to the full moon, they refer to the mathematically calculated Pascal full moon. And that is not always on the same day as when the moon appears full in the sky. So, it already was complex enough as to when Easter should be. This got even more complicated in the 18th century when the Western and Eastern Orthodox Christian churches decided to use different calendars. As a result, the Orthodox Christians celebrate Easter on a different Sunday. So, regardless of when you celebrate Easter, in my opinion, you could celebrate it whenever. You could celebrate it in November if you want, like for who knows. Dates and the calendar year are so subjective. And it's just, it's human made. It's a human concept. And it doesn't matter. So, yeah. The word Easter actually has nothing to do with Christianity, by the way. In most countries, the name Easter is derived from the word Passover. So, obviously, because Passover happened at the time of Jesus' death and resurrection. And you can notice these similarities when you look up the word Easter in different languages. So in French, Easter is Pâques. In Spanish, it's Pasqua. And as is in Italian, Pasqua. The word Easter is also believed to have derived from the pagan goddess Eoster, who was celebrated in the spring, although it's uncertain. But it wouldn't be the first time, that Christians borrowed ideas from pagan holidays and concepts. Easter therefore celebrates new beginnings due to the belief that Jesus was resurrected at this time, and we believe that it brings new life to those who have faith in him. The next section I wanted to go over are the biblical associations with Ostara. So as always, I discuss Bible verses that mention aspects of the Ostara season. The first category I have is fertility. Now, I won't be sharing the Bible verses on fertility here in this episode because I have done it in several other Wheel of the Year holiday episodes. I will link them below and you could check them out. Specifically, you could check out my Lunasa episode, my Mabon episode, and my Imbolc episode. Number 2, spring. There are tons of verses that talk about spring. Specifically, to talk about praising God for bringing spring or the season for crops. But specifically, it talks about praising the springtime rains. This is a huge indicator that water magic is great during this time, but especially rainwater magic. Like, it's very potent, and when you use these Bible verses in it, A plus, in my opinion, my practice at least. It's different, you know? The first verse I will talk about is Zechariah chapter 10, verse 1. Ask the Lord for rain in the springtime. It is the Lord who sends the thunderstorms. He gives showers of rain to all people and plants on the field to everyone. Next, we have James chapter 5, verse 7. Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. Next, we have Hosea chapter 6, verse 3. Let us acknowledge the Lord. Let us press on to acknowledge him. As surely as the sun rises, he will appear. He will come to us like winter rains, like the spring rains that water the earth. Next, we have Job chapter 29, verse 23. They waited for me as for showers, and drank in my words as the spring rain. Next, we have Proverbs chapter 16, verse 15. When a king's face brightens, it means life. His favor is like a rain cloud in spring. Next, we have Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 13 to 14. So if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and olive oil. Next, we have Joel chapter 2, verse 22 to 23. Do not be afraid, you wild animals, for the pastures in the wilderness are becoming green. The trees are bearing their fruit, the fig tree and the vine yield their riches. Be glad, people of Zion, rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given you the autumn rains, because he is faithful. He sends you abundant showers, both autumn and spring rains as before. And finally, we have Songs of Solomon, chapter 2, verses 11 through 12. For behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The next category of verses are new beginnings. Like I said, Ostara is great for new beginnings and renewal, and here are verses that mention that. First, we have Revelation chapter 21, verses 4 to 5. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. Next, we have Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Next, we have Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. We also have Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17. See, I will recreate new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. Next, we have 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 to 4. Praise be to God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. Next, we have 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, and the new is here. Then we have Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 19. I will give them an undivided heart and put a new spirit in them. I will remove from their stone of heart and give them a heart of flesh. And finally, we have Colossians chapter 3, verses 9 to 10. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Finally, the last category of verses for Ostara is balance. Ostara is great for restoring balance, also known as kind of karma, like restoring this justice state of the world and the universe. So let's get through these verses. First, we have Leviticus chapter 19, verse 36. You shall have just balances, just weights, and a just ephah and a just hin. I am the Lord your God who brought you out from the land of Egypt. Next, we have Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 to 8. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And finally, we have Proverbs chapter 11, verses 1 through 19. The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Wealth is worthless in the day of the wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the blameless make their paths straight, but the wicked are brought down by their own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the unfaithful are trapped by evil desires. Hopes placed in mortals die with them, and all the promise of their powers come to nothing. The righteous person is rescued from trouble, and it falls on the wicked instead. With their mouths the godless destroy their neighbors, but through knowledge the righteous escape. When the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. Through the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked it is destroyed. Whoever derides their neighbor has no sense, but the one who has understanding holds their tongue. A gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps a secret. For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisers. Whoever puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer, but whoever refuses to shake hands in pledge is safe. A kind-hearted woman gains honor, but ruthless men gain only wealth. Those who are kind benefit themselves, but the cruel bring ruin on themselves. A wicked person earns deceptive wages, but the one who sows righteousness reaps a sure reward. Truly the righteous attain life, but whoever pursues evil finds death. That was a super long one, but I really liked it. I think it just gives hope that there will always be a state of balance in the world, good and evil, a sense of justice. I think it's a very important concept to appreciate during this season, especially at an equinox when night and day are in balance, quite literally. Now, let's talk about some Buddhist traditions during Ostara. During Ostara, we celebrate what is called Higgin. This is a practice observed both during the spring and autumnal equinox. Higgin is a Buddhist holiday celebrated specifically by Japanese sects, but other sects do as well, 3 days before and after both the spring and autumnal equinox, as well as the day of both equinoxes. Higgin is therefore celebrated 14 days per year total. The word Higgin is a translation of the Sanskrit word paramita, and it means arriving on the other shore. This signifies getting across something. During this time specifically, it means that you are crossing from the shore of suffering to the shore of enlightenment. In order to cross from the impure world over the life and death sufferings of the great river and reach the pure land on the other shore, people must embark upon the boat of the Buddhist teachings, and Higgin reminds us of this. This celebration is a period of reflection. We think about if our words hurt anyone around us, if our actions serving ourselves more than others, if we have been productive for the sake of society, if our decisions for creating a world of strife rather than peace affected anyone, if our lifestyle encroaches upon the liberty or happiness of others, and also how our actions adversely affect our environment, which includes the soil, air, plants, insects, birds, fish, and other animals. This is therefore a time to reflect on whether or not we have been following the right path. During the period of Higgin, we try not to disrupt things and create problems for others. And Higgin represents wisdom, liberty, and compassion. This is also a time of acknowledging one's ancestors and loved ones who have passed away, and many will go to temples, grave sites, or sit in front of family altars to offer their prayers in memory of their loved ones. So, even though this holiday is celebrated almost exclusively by Japanese Buddhists, I really think this is something everyone can do. Like, reflecting on these things and doing shadow work is not a close practice. So you could definitely do that. You can obviously go to temples and grave sites and offer prayers and other offerings to your loved ones who have passed away. None of these are really strike me as closed. I think it's just something because Japanese culture is very family centered, and so this family and community oriented thinking is really, really more common in Eastern countries versus the Western world. And next section I have our Ostara associations. These are items you can include on an Ostara altar should you choose to make one. Now, for the elements, some websites and resources say that Ostara is associated with air, and it totally can be, but personally, I do believe it's closer to being associated with the earth because it is associated with fertility and abundance, which Ostara is all about, but I could also see how it's associated with air. So a mix of both elements, I think, is pretty good to think about on an Ostara altar. I don't know. Ostara colors are light green, lemon yellow, pale pink, pastels, gold, grass green, robin's egg blue, lemon yellow. Oh, I put you lemon yellow twice. My bad. Oh well. Foods and drinks for Ostara are eggs. So you could have like egg salad, deviled eggs, quiches, omelets, scrambled eggs, whatever. Any eggs. Honey cakes, seasonal fruits, milk, leafy green vegetables, dairy foods, apples, nuts, sprouts, fish, hot cross buns, and sweetbreads. They're all super great for Ostara. And the breads, I'm really not surprised by either from a ChristoPagan standpoint, because this is a time where we commemorate Jesus' death and resurrection, which means also commemorating the Last Supper when Jesus gives the bread and the wine. So wine is also pretty good to add to this list. Not for me, who is an alcoholic. Probably not the best choice. But you could, if that's what you want. You do you. I do me. Yeah. Crystals. So crystals for Ostara are amethyst, aquamarine, rose quartz, moonstone, red jasper, and bloodstone. Bloodstone especially because it's so very closely associated with Jesus and the crucifixion. In fact, the myth surrounding bloodstone's creation is that when Jesus was sacrificed, or not sacrificed, but when Jesus was crucified on the cross, his blood dripped on, I forget what stone it was, but the stones around him, it was a specific type of crystal, and it created bloodstone. So I think that's a pretty cool myth, and it's a pretty good time to use it during this season. Symbols for Ostara are tools associated with the element of earth, like the pentacle, a bowl of salt, fertile soil, cornmeal, and also any symbols related to the time of day of dawn, because the sun rises over greening fields, nature's budding and coming to life. And so anything associated with dawn, you could face your altar to the east, or start your quarter calls in the east, or say your prayers towards the east, whatever, east. That's the direction. Animals for Ostara are butterflies, snakes, chicks, swallows, and rabbits. Rabbits especially. In medieval times in Europe, the March hare was seen as a fertility symbol and a sign of spring. This species of rabbit is nocturnal most of the year, but in March it is mating season. During mating season, March hares are seen all day long, and additionally, females of the species can get pregnant with a second litter while pregnant with their first litter. That's wild to me. That's wild. But you can see why rabbits are a huge symbol of fertility. Plants and herbs associated with Ostara are acorn, celandine, cinquefoil, crocus, daffodil, dogwood, Irish moss, ginger, hyssop, linden, gorse, honeysuckle, iris, jasmine, narcissus, olive, peony, rose, tansy, violets, woodruff, and any other spring flowers. Deities and spiritual beings. Typically, they are deities and spiritual beings associated with Ostara are associated with youth, the agricultural cycle, and fertility. So we have Astarte, which I believe is another name for Asherah as well. So that would mean that Asherah would be a great deity to work with during this time. The Fae folk, which, FYI, please be cautious when working with them. Read your books, get your information. You can refer to my podcast episode as well. I'll link that below. Do not work with them until you have done your research, because they are very mischievous and somewhat dangerous group of spiritual beings to work with. Eoster, Aphrodite, Minerva, Athena, Persephone, Gaia, Hera, Venus, Mars, Ishtar, Isis, Flora, Pan, Cernunnos, Green Man, and Green Goddess. Deities that are also really good to work with during this time are deities who are known to abandon the earth during the cold months and return in the spring to restore beauty, such as Freya or Demeter. And finally, trickster gods, as well as any like trickster demons or spiritual beings, whatever. They might also be honored at this time, specifically because April Fool's Day falls within like the seasonal range of Ostara. So these would include Loki, Veles, and Robin Goodfellow. And finally, spell work. Spell work that you could do during Ostara can revolve around new beginnings, fertility spells, and fertility can be for conceiving, or fertility of the mind, or fertility of crops, and of course, balance. Now, final section. Woohoo! We're almost there, guys. Ways that you can celebrate Ostara. Number 1, the first category. How can you celebrate Ostara and embrace balance? The spring equinox reminds us to strive for balance in our lives, our body, our mind, our spirit. And ways to regain this balance will include going outside and enjoying the warmer weather, starting a new project to find your passion, do some spring cleaning, and trying out a new hobby. I know this is super early, but I have gotten back into reading. I have been reading like almost 200 pages of this novel I'm working through a day. And it has been a long, long time since I found that passion, since I've found the time to enjoy that passion. So I'm super, super happy that I have been doing that. And I'm definitely going to do more of it during Ostara. Number 2, gardening. Planting flowers both indoors and outdoors, especially flowers and herbs symbolic of Ostara. And also doing seed magic. Before planting your seeds, hold the seeds in your hand and whisper to them a goal you are working on achieving this spring. As the plants grow, your manifestations can be released to the universe and come to fruition. If you have not achieved your goal or your flowers fail to bloom, this could be a sign that it's time to re-examine your goal. Did you make any steps to do it, or did you just say, I will have $1 million, and then poof? Like, did you do any work to get that? What steps do you need to complete in order to meet your goal? Is this goal still achievable, or maybe should you try something a little more reasonable and manageable? These are things that you can think about during this time. Number 3, color magic. This is a time to celebrate spring. I know, trust me, I love my black clothing. I wear black and gray almost like every day, especially when I'm wearing my gym clothes. My gym clothes are all black and gray. I don't wear bright colors very often, but during spring, you could use color magic to manifest some happiness, some positivity. I will link below my color magic episode for more details, but definitely try that out. For example, wearing green to bring abundance. Even makeup, you could use makeup to do color magic. You could use lipsticks only, like you don't need to go all out. You can draw a sigil in a particular color, like on your skin. Make sure it's skin safe stuff, but yeah, stuff like that. Definitely incorporate color magic into your routine for Ostara. And egg magic. There's tons of magic you can do with eggs. You can make egg baskets. You can color eggs, which is a form of coloring magic and a sort of manifestation. Like draw on or color your eggs, particular sigils and things, symbols of things you want to manifest. And then when you crack the egg, it releases it to the universe. That's a simple thing that I do. Very mundane, very broom closet friendly. You could collect hatched birds' eggs. Please don't collect like safe eggs from like random birds' nests. Like, oh, there's an egg, I want it. No, please don't. Get like a hatched eggshell on the floor, and you could use that as an offering, or you could use that in spell work. Bird watching is another great way. You're just appreciating the universe. You're appreciating spring. And you're enjoying the returning of various bird species that are gone during the winter months. Egg hunts. you could also make it a little more magical. You could put little notes in the eggs or little sigils in the eggs and then hunt them down. And then as you find them, open the egg and look at the sigil. I'm talking about these plastic egg things. But yeah, and then you could look at those and then kind of reflect on what that sigil means for you. You know, make it a little more magical. Or you could, if you want to teach your kids, that's a great way to teach your kids too, some magical properties as well while having a fun game. Tons of things you can do with egg hunts that make it magical. Egg cleanses. Now, I've never done an egg cleanse. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, that I'll never have to. There are different versions of this. I believe there is a closed practice version of it. Do not do that closed practice version. There is an open practice version, open to everyone to do. Look it up, do that version. Don't touch the closed practice one unless you're a part of that group. Again, I've never done it myself, but this is a suggestion I'm putting out there for anyone that feels the need to do it. And finally, using eggshells in your spell workings, like I've said. Eggshells are a very potent protection ingredient. I use it in nearly every protection and cleansing spell that I have. I use eggshells in there. So that's it for the egg magic stuff. Finally, you could do some of the Buddhist practices listing above, like doing shadow work, ancestral work, ancestral magic, gathering the powers of like your passed on loved ones, visiting their loved ones' graves, asking them to help you manifest your desires, stuff like that. You can totally do that during Ostara. And yeah. So that is the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you are listening to this on YouTube, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening to it on Spotify, give it a follow. You'll get more this content and you'll look for more. You can also follow me on social media. My social media accounts will be in the Linktree page below. And I would really love to get in contact with some of you guys. I've had a couple of people that said they listened to some podcast episodes reach out to me. I love getting messages from you guys. So if you feel the need to do that, I would love to hear from you. If you have a video suggestion, in the link tree below, click on the video ideas link, fill up that Google Docs, and give me some video ideas. I will be sure to get to them, hopefully, as soon as I get the suggestion. I can find a relatively soon time to be able to do that for you guys. If you want to join a community of like-minded witches, a safe place where we respect everyone, where we educate people, and we have a superb moderator team that help me manage the account on a day-to-day basis, you could join my Discord server, Crystal Caverns. The link is also in the link tree below. I would love to see some of you guys there. Recently, I have lost one of my jobs, and it has been a struggle to find another job. Money has been a little tight, so I'm starting to work on advertising my divination readings that I do. All prices are listed in Canadian prices. You could find that as well in the link tree below. You can book a divination reading with me. That would be super helpful if you would like to support my small business, help me get some extra money in, as I do have some financial things I will have to have covered eventually. That is about it. Thank you for listening to that little spiel. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Blessed be everyone. Have a wonderful day, week, month, and year.